Welcome to today's discussion. After having discussed on addition of decimal numbers, now it's our turn to look at subtraction of decimal numbers. Let's start. Suppose we are asked to subtract 36.25 minus 21.20. So my first duty, or my first step, will be to arrange them in vertical order. So how will I write? 36.25. I will put minus sign beside this, and then I will place 21.20. After having done with our placement, it's now our turn to carry out the subtraction. 5 minus 0 gives me how much? I have not taken anything from 5, so 5 remains 5. 2 minus 2 gives me how much? Nothing, 0. After that, I have encountered the decimal point, so I will put the decimal point. Then I will subtract 1 from 6. So 6 minus 1 gives me how much? 5. 3 minus 2 gives me how much? 1. So my answer is 15.05. Let's move on to the next example. Let us suppose I have one number 125.85 and I have to subtract, say, 26.25. So at first, what to do? At first, I will have to write these two numbers in vertical fashion. So first comes 125.85. Then just below that, you see there is 0.85 and 0.25. So they will come beneath it. 6 will come below 5. 2 will come below the previous 2. And there is nothing below 1, so we will assume that there is a 0. Now let's subtract. 5 minus 5 gives me how much? 0. 8 minus 2 gives me how much? 6. Now can I subtract 5? Can I subtract 6 from 5? No. So what I have to do? I have to assume that it's 15. So 15 minus 6, how much does it give me? 15 minus 6 gives me 9. I will take it over here. I have increased this 5 by 1 and I have placed 1 beside it. So I have to increase this 2 by how much? By 1. So this becomes 3. If this becomes 3, this becomes 3 and there is still 2. But can I subtract 3 from 2? No. So I have to assume that there is 1 beside it. So if there is 1 beside it, what does it become? 12. To 12 minus 3 gives me how much? Again, it gives me 9. Now since I have placed 1 behind 2, I have to add 2 here to this spot. Now on this spot there is no number. So I will assume that there is 0. After having added 1, what do I get? 1. 1 minus 1 gives me how much? 0. So there is no need to write that 0. So what is my answer? 99.60. Now let's look at some more examples. Example. Now in the previous examples, the numbers were roughly of the same size. Now let's take two numbers which are quite far apart. One is quite big, another is quite small. So let's start. So suppose I'm taking 125.86 and I have to subtract 0.25. So what will be my first step? My first step will be to arrange these two numbers in vertical fashion. You see, there is 0 before the point. I mean there is no number beneath 5, 2, 1. So I will just put 0 beneath 5, put a point, and match up 25 with 0.86 above it. After having done this, let me subtract. 6 minus 5 gives me how much? 1. 8 minus 2 gives me how much? 6. 5 minus 0 gives me how much? 5. 2 minus nothing. I can assume, or I can yes, I can assume that there is a 0 over here. So 2 minus 0 gives me how much? 2. Beneath 1 there is nothing. So how much will I assume? I will assume there is a 0. So 1 minus 0 gives me how much? 1. So let's try another example. Let us suppose I have 65.25, and from there I have to subtract 0.7. So what I have to do as first step, 65.25, let me put the minus sign to the far left, and after that 0.79 will go beneath 0.25, and the decimal point before 0.7 will be matched with the decimal point just above it, that is beside 0.25. There is no number beneath 5, so I will put a 0. You can put a 0 beneath 6, but that's not necessary. Now let me carry out the subtraction process. Can I subtract this? 5 minus 9? No. So what I will do, I will assume that there is a 1 beside 5, so it becomes 15. Now I can subtract. 15 minus 9 gives me how much? 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 6. Since I have put 1 beside 5, I will take that 1 away and add it with this 7. So if I add 1 with 7, what do I get? I get 8. So now I have to subtract 8 from 2, but still I cannot carry out that subtraction. So what to do? I will assume there is 1 beside 2. So after having assumed 1 beside 2, my 2 becomes what? 2 becomes 12. So 12 minus 8. So 12 minus 8 gives me how much? 4. Since I had made an assumption that there is 1 beside 2, I have to take that 1 and add it to this digit over here. Sorry, to this number over here, which is 0. So if I add 0 with 1, what do I get? I get 1. But before going over to the other side, I have met the decimal point, so let me put the decimal point first. Now this 0, it is no longer 0, it has become what? 1. So 5 minus 1 gives me how much? 4. Now let's move on to the next column. 6, and there is nothing beneath it, so I can always assume that there is 0 beneath it. So 6 minus 0 gives me how much? 64. So I think I have shown you enough examples. Now it's your turn to actually practice them. So all these 4 examples will actually help you. If you go through them again and again, will help you carry out any kind of subtraction involving decimal numbers. Thank you.